With the issues cropping up from the single spine salary structure, one very question that needs an answer and clarification is that, is the pay policy all about increment in salaries?
Definitely there will be some appreciable increase for some people who have already been overrated for some wrong reasons will become stagnant or stay at one place marking time for a while. When there is a general salary increase, as we arranged between the social partners and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, they will end that as a lump sum and be paid either one time or as will be agreed between the two parties. So there will always be some adjustment, but the general thing that is being done, people are being pulled, migrated from one end to another end, will not necessarily bring income to each and every one. Majority may get something.
I further asked him why he thinks some workers who have been migrated onto the spine continue to agitate for more money despite the recent development on the labor front in Ghana.
The functions that are supposed to be performed, particularly by the Human Resource and Industrial Relations Department of organizations who are supposed to manage this aspect of the project, are not coordinating effectively enough. And as such, people are complaining because they think that what is to be done to enable them appreciate their job worth is not being tackled, as efficiently as they assume. It's also because people lack knowledge, understanding, and appreciation of what goes into determining salaries and wages, and the commitment on the part of an employer. Workers need to be educated properly as to what goes into this kind of functions, because it's not just a question of pay me enough. It's about what comes in and the kind of activities that company undertakes. If you take GBC as an example, you have certain functions you perform. There are certain costs that are just there. You have no chance than to apply it. You want to call it fixed costs, such as paying for your utilities, your social security, your pension, paying for wages and salaries and other related benefits. The work operationally must be done. Equipments must be bought and replaced. How many people know the totality of this? That is why in the Labour Act, Section 97, we expected that a lot of information sharing, relevant as it may, would be forthcoming to enable people to appreciate what goes into managing an enterprise.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission was not left out of the discussion. Does this new pay policy imply an increase in salaries of workers?
Single spine may be an increase in salaries in the long run, but not in the first year of implementation. Once you ultimately would want to be able to attract and retain people into the public service, what it means is that you will need to have a salary structure that will be competitive. And that salary structure which will be competitive will be higher than the current salary structure that we have in the public service. And so at the end of the day, we will have enhanced salary for public servants. But the key thing is that we are also eliminating inequities in the system and the distortions. Now, if you do that, it means that those who are at the moment disadvantaged will also see some increase in their salaries.
This good news generated widespread applause when some, including the security agencies, were migrated onto the spine, given the changes on their pay slip after their migration. Little did one know that the introduction of the single spine salary structure meant to bring equity and satisfaction to public sector workers would generate heated debate and kick up a lot of storm thus far.
In any major reform of this nature, you are likely to have a lot of people being against it because of the fear of unknown and what is going to happen in the future. But if you look at what is happening in Ghana today, by and large, most of the unions and associations are on board. And they are all working closely with Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to get these issues resolved.
Regardless of this, some continue to argue that when fully operational given its 5-year span, the single spine salary structure will work the magic of reducing strikes.
I agree, but that will not take place overnight. Because of the single spine, the dynamics have changed completely. We are not longer, as a nation, going to experience the traditional negotiation where only GBC come and sit in front of the employer and negotiate its condition of service. No, it's going to be some pool work will be done by all the people, the social partners will sit together with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission and in some of the representatives of their employers to negotiate a holistic package. What is peculiar to specific areas, let's say for instance medical officers have a certain peculiar allowance. That peculiar allowance can be negotiated also through the Fair Wages and Salary Commission and their employer. But we don't have a disjointed situation again. Otherwise, you have a situation where implementation of this thing will still be jaundiced with people having to cry and say that somebody is being paid this, I'm not being paid this. Whereas that's supposed to not to be the case. So there's going to be a pool work this time, plus some disengaged arrangement for specific establishments.
He, however, called for information sharing and education to enable people to understand and appreciate the role and function of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. The news team then followed up to the commission to find out how it went about its sensitization and education program.
We strategically planned it in such a way that we targeted institutions and then leadership and all that. So as we are educating them, they will go back and educate their members. One other issue that we have seen is that the education also didn't go down well, not because of fair wages, but because we have weak HR in the various public service institutions. Most of the education should have been driven by the HRs in the public service education, who themselves didn't have enough information anyway and were not doing what they are supposed to do. The other issue is that Ghanaians are now used to listening to politics. And when they are listening to one radio station, they will listen to the politics. Once they finish with politics and they say, oh, they are now coming to talk about single spine, they will tune away from that station and go and listen to another station where they are talking politics. So whilst you are on air thinking that you are educating people, most people have tuned away from there and now have gone to listen to politics.
Has the introduction of the single spine salary structure had an effect on government budgets, and what strategy must government put in place to manage the wage bill, especially during an election year?
There has been a tendency of the government to overspend during an election year. In 2012, which is going to be an election year, if the government goes in for very high expenditures, then that might derail the economy. It may not be felt in that year, but certainly within a year or two, you will feel it after probably the election is over. So my advice, obviously, is that there's a case for government spending because of the demand for so many services, but the spending must be moderate, in line with the growth of the economy, and in line with containing government budget deficit to as low as possible.
From the standpoint of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, the scheme is sustainable. However, it urges caution considering the belief that the new pay policy is all about salary increment rather than equitable salary adjustment. It is hoped that the timetable drawn by the Commission to migrate all public sector workers onto the single spine salary structure will be heeded too. Rebekah Awuah reporting.